If you've been self-employed for any length of time, you've probably experienced this uniquely weird moment. That moment when someone asks you how your business is going, and you could either answer with the details of a really exciting new project that you're hoping will be finalized in just the next couple of days, or the fact that you seriously considered getting a side gig to pay your rent a couple of weeks ago. This constant oscillation between, it's working, this is amazing, and, oh my God, what have I done? Well, it turns out that back and forth is just a part of the reality of being self-employed. But it's not exactly what people talk about when they're encouraging you to follow your dreams. The perception that going full-time as a maker is clear and finite is, well, not always so clear, as you may have been noticing in the recent episodes. Sure, there is often a big day when you quit whatever other outside work you've been doing to pay the bills, and you mark that day on the calendar as the moment you officially, quote unquote, went full-time. But then what? What if you need a few hours back at that old job, here and there, just to fill in some gaps? Does that make you less full-time of an artist? What about the mental shifts that no one really prepares you for? What happens when the market you used as an economic proof that you could make this work full-time totally changes the year you are actually full-time? Your best laid plans change and they are completely out of your control. Now you're left to figure it out all over again. Today, I'm reconnecting with Yvonne Rausch, a ceramicist based in Austria who we talked to almost exactly 2 years ago as she was stepping into being a full-time ceramicist. Since then, she's navigated everything from 5-week Christmas markets to embassy orders discovered through small talk with a neighbor, from studio moves to creative pivots away from mugs and back again. This conversation digs into the very real problem solving that never stops as a self-employed creative, the seasonal rhythms you have to learn to work with, and how sometimes the best opportunities come not from your carefully crafted marketing strategy or spreadsheets, but from simply helping a neighbor carry some boxes up the stairs. So let's get into this honest look at the ongoing journey of full-time making right after this brief word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by The Community, your creative business support system with over 100 makers from around the world, with both the practical education you need to make a living from the things you make, found in our masterclasses on topics like finances, marketing, and SEO, plus the emotional support of fellow makers who truly understand what it's like to try and make a living from the things we make. It's like having both a business school designed specifically for artists and a team of colleagues who actually get what you're going through. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Hi friends, I'm Debbie Stolier, ceramic artist, lover of texture, and curious human behind Curiosity Ceramics. I'm based in the Bay Area in California, and when I am not at my day job or carving clay, I'm doing dog sports with my pups, Potato and Whiskey. Joining the Makers Playbook community has been such a great experience. The support, the weekly community hangouts, the pep talks, the practical business advice. It's honestly like having a team of cheerleaders who also totally get why I'm still up at midnight glazing mugs. If you want to see what I'm working on or just say hi, you can find me on my Instagram at curiosity.art. Okay, bye!
As Debbie said, go connect with her on Instagram if you have any questions, or check out makersplaybook.com/community to learn more. And of course, come join us. Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Makers Playbook, the show where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, seasoned entrepreneur of 14 years, Rebecca Ikes Cara. Hey, Yvonne. Welcome to the podcast. Again.
Hi. Thanks for having me again. It's fun being here.
Right? I'm not going to apologize for it, but I'm just going to give the disclaimer that I'm very excited, and we chat with each other on the internet and in the community. So, like, I'm just excited. I'm just like, meh, yay.
Yeah, I think like also this can be a long conversation just because we get each other as well so well. Yeah, I think it's just gonna be a fun day.
We were saying before we hit record, now that we've said again multiple times, it's been almost 2 years to the date. Almost. We're off by like maybe a month and a half since we last chatted on the podcast. I should have looked up the episode number before we started. I'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, but yeah, it was my last day of work. Then I decided to be full-time ceramicist. And that's really crazy that that's kind of like the podcast day was the last day. And it was like full of emotions. I probably rambled more than I should have. When I was listening to it, I was like, wait, do I make sense?
Rambling is great for podcasting. It means I don't have to come up with questions.
Oh, there's enough to talk about.
Right? There's only been a few things that have happened in the last 2 years for you, I feel like, in this crazy journey. Before we get into all of it, remind everybody who you are, where you're at in the world, however you want to give the introduction.
Okay, so my name is Yvonne, and I am based in Austria, but I'm originally from Colombia. I've always been a creative person by heart, but clay took my heart pretty right away, as most of us has. I've been in the clay journey about 5 to 6 years, but fully self-employed 2 years now. So that's crazy to think about, especially because at that moment you're like, am I really doing the right thing? How am I going to do it? And it's been 2 years and I'm still here. So it's kind of like, okay, so I'm doing it. I mean, I'm not saying it does come with their ups and downs, which funny enough, we were supposed to meet, I think, not supposed to, but we said that we wanted to meet the beginning of June. And I read your message much later, so I had to book later in the month. And I'm actually very glad, because if we would have met 2 weeks ago, I would have been a little bit more negative than I am right now. It was like, I was in that moment where I was like, I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't want to do anything. Why am I doing this? Nobody should do ceramics for a living. Like, I was in that mood. So I'm really happy that I'm not in that mood right now, because we can actually speak and in positive notes.
But this is actually a very real feeling that I think might surprise people. Number one, how frequently a lot of us go through. Like the people that you see online who are like, oh, you've got it together, you've quit your job, you're full-time, this is amazing, look at all the things you've done and the huge markets you've been in and the Paris exhibition and all this stuff. And it's like, we're still in this mental cycle of like, this is fantastic, I love it, what have I done? Oh my God, I should quit and get a job. This is fantastic. I love it. Oh my God. It's just this constant.
I actually got a job 2 months ago as a waitress. I lasted 2 weeks. I'm like, no way now. It's good to know that the option's still there, because that was always my thing. Like, every restaurant is always looking. So whatever comes to be, I know I can go and ask for a job tomorrow. And that's what I did. And I'm like, wait, I'm not in that point yet. Bye-bye.
I mean, that was the really refreshing thing we talked about after you went full-time, which just the perspective you had at the time was like, I'm going to give this a go. If it doesn't work out, I can get something else. It wasn't this like finite feeling from you and that's not to say you're not completely committed and absolutely passionate about it, but it was just like, I can figure something else out also if I have to, or I can figure something out while I'm doing this and sustain myself. And you've just always had this, I don't know what the word is. I don't know. I don't know what the word is in any language. Like,
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yes, 100%. That's as I intended it, because I think my brain thinks in this really finite way of like, if I make this decision, this is the decision. And it's like, well, no, that's not actual reality.
Yeah, no. And we make plans, so many plans, and nothing ever goes to plan. It's crazy. And it's like, we know this. Everybody knows this for generations. And we still make the plans. And we still don't. Things don't just never come to plan. And every time I'm opening a spreadsheet, I'm like, oh, this is how it's going to be. And then no, that's not how it is. And I think that's okay. That's part of life. But I think that's also what you said before about seeing from the outside as well how everything looks so successful. I've done all this huge markets and this exhibitions and I traveled. But that's not to say that it comes also with its highs and lows and also with moments that you're like, what did I choose to do? My friends are all like, they don't get it. The ones that are not creative. I do have a lot of creative friends, and that's like the highlight of life. But all my friends who are not creative, they just don't get it. For example, today's a holiday here. Everything's closed. You cannot go to the supermarket. So many friends are like, let's go to the swim. It's nice. It's a holiday. I'm like, no, guys, I'm working. It's like, why are you working on a holiday? I have no idea whose angel's birthday it is today. Why would that affect me? I like my routine. I'm keeping to it, which is nice. I do get the studio by myself. But still, it's kind of like this ups, downs, things go south very fast sometimes, and you just have to show up and keep showing up, and things just get back to normal. And it's crazy to navigate, I think, especially because, I mean, the last 2 years have been like very crazy highs and then very crazy lows. And when you're in the low, you don't know when you're going to get that high again. And it's scary. It's scary because you're like, okay, let's get another job. And then it's like, okay, no, we can do this. I cannot imagine myself doing anything else. And yeah, that's to say, it looks great from the outside. Also because, I mean, we have to be consistent on those socials and show all the great things that you've done. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I cannot show my weakness either. I mean, I could, but at the same time, I don't want to, because I also want to lie to myself to get to that point of being fine again. Yeah, I don't know. We're getting a little bit too therapeutical now.
Nah, no, that was to be expected. But I think it's a great point, because I think a lot of us as colleagues talk about wanting some, I'm going to use an overused word, like authenticity or vulnerability or reality on the internet. But we are only looking at what other people are putting out from a collegial, as a peer. And it's like, well, actually, what I'm putting on the internet as a potter is for the people who I want to buy my pots, which, like, okay, potters buy pots. Sure, but not the overwhelming majority. Like, what art gallery for you, what chef for us wants to purchase something from someone who's getting online going, the whole kiln exploded and I don't know why. Nobody wants to buy that from somebody. I mean, maybe like a family member does because they feel bad for you, or a friend, but like not necessarily your ideal audience that you're going for.
Definitely. And I think that's also very hard, because I had, as you just mentioned, the beginning of the year, I went for a long trip, then I come back, and it's the first time I ever do pre-orders. I never do them because they make me very anxious. I don't know why. I can work with bigger clients, but if one customer does pre-order, I have their face in my head, and I'm like, oh shit, this has to be perfect. But I'm like, okay, I left for a long time. I need to get this fear away from me. Let's try it. I do pre-orders, and I got about, I don't know, 10 or 20 orders, and I got so excited. I started working on them, kiln opened, and everything was broken. And I'm like, what did just happen? And then I tried again. I did the order.
This was like a thing you've made before. It wasn't like a brand new thing that you had never made. Like, just for clarity for everybody, these were mugs that you had made previously.
Exactly. They were like my best-selling mugs. I'm like, if I'm doing pre-order, I'm doing something that I know it's going to turn out well, that always turns out well. And exactly at that moment, it didn't. And then I realized there was a problem with my kiln. And then I realized there was a problem with my material. And I didn't know where it was. And it took me about 2 months to figure it out. And also thanks to community. I'm not doing any advertisement here, but like we meet every Mondays. And it's so nice because every week I had a new problem, and they helped me like figure out where to look for the solution. But all to say is that all of these things I'm not going to post on Instagram. I posted that I was going through some damage control, but at the same time, it's like, who wants to know that my clay is over deflocculated? Who understands that? Like, it makes no sense. So it was really hard for me in that moment to be able to show myself authentically as well, promote my stuff, because I'm like in the back of my head coming every day to work trying to figure out where the problem is. And it was hard. I think it was the most challenging I've had ever since I'm self-employed. It's like, damn, hard.
Right, because you feel a certain sense of responsibility to the people who also entrusted you with their money, right? You don't want them to feel uncertain of the decision that they made to buy something from you. You want them to be confident in you and trust you, and you can communicate with them authentically and honestly to say like, "Hey, I was on track with the timeline I shared with you. Something unexpected has happened. Ceramics is complicated science. I'm going to keep you up to date, but we're going to be behind." Like, that's still being honest without oversharing, because to your point, nobody knows what flux is. It's just like, I just wanted a mug for my espresso.
Yeah, definitely. And it was like me answering to emails all the time, like, sorry, it's going to take me a bit longer now. Like, when is it ready? When is it ready? I ordered it like 3 months ago. It's like, I know. Believe me, I have not forgotten you. And that's hard, because it's like you have no other choice. You just have to make it work, and you need to show up. Even though I didn't want to show up, I was like really in this moment where I didn't want to show up. I hated clay in that time frame, and I think that's okay to recognize it. It's not always this romanticized life. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like shit, and you're the only person who is responsible to make it go forward. And I think that's a big difference of being fully self-employed to having it as part-time. Because when I was doing part-time, I still had problems and things and moments of downs that I didn't want to do it. But it was easier to be like, oh, I'll deal with that tomorrow, or I'll deal with that next week. I'm going to take my time now. When you're full-time, you don't have that choice. And I think that's one of the biggest differences that I saw from both scenarios. It's not that I didn't take it seriously before. I just had the luxury to take a day and take 2 days, which sometimes maybe I should have needed, but I had like this pressure on myself and all these people that I had to show up, and I had to get better, and I had to figure out what this problem was, even if I didn't like it. And that's something that I'm still getting used to.
What I hear in that is like the mental self-development that I think goes unestimated a lot of the times. Like, I think a lot of the focus of like, should I be full-time? Should I not? When should I go? Is often framed, and pragmatically so, in the financial realm of like, can I sell enough? Is there enough demand? Do I have enough savings account that if things are slow, I'll be okay? Like, all of those are valid things to think about going full time.
Definitely.
But there is that mental shift that you just can't, like, there's no online course I can point someone to be like, here's like mental self-development for the self-employed.
I think you just need to learn that by doing it, I think. And there's no right time. There's no years of experience before that's going to train you for this either. So, like, if you're thinking about it, just jump.
She says after describing the lowest low of 2 years. But you're still here.
But
you're still here.
I'm still here. And funnily enough, financially, like when I started 2 years ago, I was selling on a lot of markets, and I showed you, and I think I said on the podcast, that I take everything with transport, public transport. I still do, but markets have drastically changed in the past 2 years. It's insane. I don't know if everywhere in the world, but at least here, half of the markets that were taking place by the time I was first self-employed do not exist anymore. The past 6 months or more, I've been doing like 5 times less on a market than I usually do. And it's not like, oh, I had a bad market day, because you can have, but like 5 times less, that's like, okay, what am I doing here? And when I first started, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be markets around, and I'm always going to be able to sell at markets. So that's kind of like my safety net of how I'm going to finance it. But then things just drastically change. And yes, it sounds bad what I'm saying, but this is actually a positive because you also get to get creative in the ways that you make money. I remember after like last year, after a really bad market day, like horribly, I didn't even make the booth fee. I was like fed up with it. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to carry things through public transport. It's just so much work and sit here for hours and not even make booth like I paid to be here. And exposure is not really the goal that I'm having either. And I wrote to the community like, guys, this is horrible. This is shit. Can you please help me to figure out what to do? And I think I was writing about cold emails because I'm like, I need to write to anyone, but I need to figure something out.
I think you were at the market, if memory serves me correctly. I think you were sitting in your booth. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, this is not going well, and I'm fed up with this, and I cannot have markets as my safety net now. Help me out. And I don't remember who was it that said it, but basically it all came to like trying to figure out some other types of clients that are not B2C, so business to customer. And that same week, I landed a job with the embassy, and they ordered over 50 mugs. And this was not wholesale price. This was retail price, 50. And it was like, whoa, okay, I can breathe now. I figured it out. There's other ways to make money. And I think that's just the fun part. It does not sound fun phrasing it, but it's actually like this moment where you're like, okay, next thing that I need to figure out, how am I going to make this work? Okay, markets are not working how they are, so where else can I sell, or how else can I sell my work? Because I believe in my work and I believe that I do a good job. And maybe these are not my clients. Where do I find them? What different types of clients are there? And I think you need to get to that point to start like thinking out of the box and thinking out of the traditional ways of selling. I mean, of course, I have an online shop as everybody has. And I remember, I think last year that I was like, I'm going to train my followers so that they buy everything in between minutes. Because you see all these awesome potters who just open their shop and after 2 minutes they're sold out. And I'm like, I want to be that. So I'm going to start training them. Of course, that didn't happen. I used to have like, I was like, okay, every first of the month I'm opening my shop, and then the 7th of the month I'll close it. So people have like this urge, they have to buy now. And then I would get like 2 sales. And I was like, okay, that's okay. I'm still training them. And people just didn't get that I was closing it again. So I would still get like so many emails of like, oh, do you have this mug or do you have this vase? And of course, I didn't want to lose the sale. So then I would spend more time, email these people back, sending them pictures of the things that I had. It's like, okay, get off of your horse and leave the online shop open. But you're always like thinking, okay, this is the way that I'm going to make money, or this is the way, like markets, no, online shop. But at the end, it's just a mixture of everything that it just kind of makes it okay in the way to just make enough to sell. And I think that's something that I would have never gotten this mind exercise before I was full-time. So I think that's fun. It doesn't sound fun, but it is fun.
Well, and I think the thing we like jokingly glossed over was that moment of being able to, for lack of a better word, rage a little bit of like, you do have to get the frustration out. Like having a safe place with people who understand what it feels like to be able to be like, oh my God, this sucks. And it's like, yep, we see you, we feel you, we've been there. I've been in that booth for 4 days and, understand how much it sucks. It's going to be okay. We're going to figure out a solution. Right now, we don't need to talk about the solution yet because we need to just scream into the void. And then once you do that, though, then it's like maybe the next day or 2 days later, it's kind of like, okay, all right, now I'm ready for you to give me your creative ideas. Now I can think creatively around how I can troubleshoot this, but it has to be both.
Yeah, definitely. And like learning also that it's okay to rage and it's okay to be mad and it's okay to be sad and it's okay to be down because it's all part of it's part of the process. I mean, if I didn't have that shitty market, I would have never thought to contact an embassy. Like, why would an embassy need mugs? They gift them. They don't need to make money with it. So that was really fun because I was like, this is my price. Like, okay, it's not even their money. It's like monopoly money. And it's like, this is interesting. So I think that's also nice to think, okay, there are more ways than just the traditional way. And it's fun because you get to know different people that you've never expected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And going back to what we were saying before about the unexpected mind games of being self-employed, on the one hand, there is that side of like being able to ride the emotional roller coaster. And then on the other hand, I think there's also the side of the people like you who I see sticking with it for the long game are the people who keep their brain available in a way. That's a weird way to phrase this. How am I trying to say this?
Here's my brain.
Right? Like just... But, that constantly see self-employment as this problem-solving thing that it is. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you're making pottery or selling, I don't know, crappy drop-shipped T-shirts or something, like, you still have to constantly problem-solve, troubleshoot, brainstorm solutions, see if they work, find out what doesn't work, and problem-solve, troubleshoot, brainstorm solutions all over again. And that's the cycle.
Definitely. And I think another interesting part of it that I never thought was going to be included, you learn so much about yourself and your self-worth, and you're into this positions where you have to deal with stuff that it was so easy to brush aside if you were not in this position, but you are. So before I start rambling in the wrong direction, what I mean is more like you have to deal with a client that's being super mean to you, let's say, hypothetically. It's like learning how to say no, learning how to stand up for yourself, learning to stand up to your values. And I think self-employment doesn't matter what you do, if you're doing clay, if you're doing anything creatively or not. I think that's also a skill that you constantly have to challenge on and are more aware of what your values are and with how do you like to be treated as a person based on these business interactions that you have. So I think that's something that I never thought I would have to deal or that I would have to think about. But it's also something that's very important to acknowledge, that it's also something that you learn with time because you're self-employed. Like in German, funnily enough, self-employment, the translation is actually standing on its own 2 feet. That's how you say it. And I think that's just because your business is you and you are your business. And yeah, there's sometimes that you can separate them in a sense, but at the end of the day, you have to work on yourself to make sure that your business goes forward. Because you cannot be like, oh, it's 5 p.m., I leave the door, job's done. That's it. Job's always there because you are there, if that makes sense. So I'm also very grateful for that.
Which is the double-edged sword, right? Like you are totally in charge, which is part of the attraction. And also you are totally in charge,
Yeah.
which is part of the exhaustion. Like,
Yes.
The thing that I used to tell everybody, I don't know, a decade or more ago that I loved the most about being self-employed was I would say, if I worked for somebody else, I would have a very distinct role and I would show up every day and I would fill that role and that's kind of it. I don't like saying you're a cog in a wheel because that's like really machine and not human, but like you are hired for a specific position, for a specific thing.
And you have your job description and you can say that's not in my job description. Continue.
True. Right. On the plus side, you have boundaries. On the plus side, you have boundaries. On the negative side, it can maybe get monotonous or it can kind of be like, okay, I'm not exercising these other parts of my brain that I have. And so I used to tell everybody, like, the reason I love being self-employed is because I get to use 110% of my brain every day, right? Now, a million years later, it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired because I get to use I have to use 110% of my brain every day. So,
Plus sides and downsides as everything. Like, stability would be nicer. But at the same time, I took off 3 months of vacation. And I don't think there's any job that can give you that. So,
Not at least without having first committed like 5 to 10 years and like quote unquote earning a sabbatical, right? You would
exactly.
have to put in so much in order to then have that time off. 100%.
Definitely. So that's a big perk. And it's knowing when you can do that as well. There's sometimes that you're like, hey, it's a holiday and I'm sitting here and I'm working because I got to do this. Christmas market for me, it's like 5 weeks straight every single day and it's exhausting. But because I do that, I allow myself to have a month off sometimes too, because I'm doing no one any good if I get burnt out. And I'm doing myself any good if I get burnt out. And we work for a reason as well. It's to enjoy life, and rest is part of that life as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked about some lows, but you also mentioned that there's been some of the highest of highs in 2 years. So let's take that spin for a little while, because otherwise we can just...
Yeah, sorry. It's just, as I said, like if it was 2 weeks ago, it would have been even more low. But it's just very fresh.
You are fine. No apologies needed, because that is the reality of this, right? That's what I was so excited about coming back to this conversation we started 2 years ago and seeing like how that, that's what's interesting to me about this whole Where Are They Now series is like you are in the thick of it. It's not necessarily like, oh, I quit my job, I went full time, and now I have a gazillion followers and my shop updates sell out in 2 minutes and
That would be so nice.
right?
But a cool thing that's been like high things, I'm learning how to work with people, which is really fun, and doing collaborations, which is also really fun. I think collaborations are, for now, like my biggest highs, just because it feels like work again. Like you come into, you're like problem solving, but in a fun way. Like, oh, this person wants a paint palette. Like, how am I going to do it differently than everything I see on Pinterest? Or how am I going to do it with my style? And I remember I was just cutting paper and putting things together like if I was in school. And it just feels really good to challenge your creative head in that way. Like, so that has been really fun. I've been working with a lot of people, and that's fun. I've also had people come to me and be like I think it was at the beginning of my self-employment that I was seeing somebody moving into my building. And I'm like, oh, let me give you a hand. And I started like helping carrying things up the stairs. And then I greeted myself. I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Yvonne. I live like in this floor, da, da, da. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I just moved in. I'm opening a restaurant. And I'm like, oh, how cool. And then they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a ceramic artist. And they're like, we could use some bowls. And I'm like, sure, come by. And I think that's just this this thing that you think, oh, that would be so cool when it happens. And then it happens and you're like, oh my God, that is really cool that it happened. My neighbor needed some bowls and I made it for the restaurant. And they were also photographed in like different magazines and newspapers and for this restaurant. And my bowls were there. So that was like pretty nice experience, which, I mean, it doesn't happen every day, but every time it happens would be nice.
Also, as two girls who love a spreadsheet and two women, I should say, we are grown-ups, but whatever. We can unpack that psychology another time. Two professionals who love spreadsheets, and to be clear, this is you and I, to everybody listening, the two of us love to strategize, love to plan, love to plot things out in a spreadsheet. It's always endearing and also frustrating for me to remind myself of like sometimes the best opportunities, the most exciting ones, the ones that fit the best and lead to the like long-term whatever are like just making small talk with your neighbor.
Yes.
That leads to happening to say, oh, this is what I do. And they go, oh, well, we need that. Like, what?
Definitely. After that, like every single collaboration that I have has been with Latin people. And I don't know why that is, but I think because maybe in Spanish I speak more authentically, maybe. But it's, as you say, it's at a party from another painter that's making a little launch and they are like open atelier. And then I'm going there and I'm speaking Spanish, being all myself. And then they're like, oh, I could use this. Let's work together. And I think that's just like really fun and really nice that doesn't matter how much technology we have, going back to that topic that I think we were not recording on. Uh, at the end of the day, the best, or well, not the best, but for now, for me, the best have been by in person, like talking to people in person and just also being honest of what you do and just being yourself, like without the intention of network. I need to find clients because that's never what it is. I'm going for some drinks and just chatting and having some time because at the end of the day, we're all people. And I think that's even nicer for me, for you, and for everyone having a conversation if we're just honest and just there and not be like, I want to take something from you, because then nothing will ever happen and you would go frustrated home because you didn't get any clients.
100%. And also, none of us actually enjoy being pitched to, right? I think people will find this funny coming out of my mouth because I talk about sales and marketing all the time. And it's like, yeah, but like, I'm not like cold pitching emails or cold walking into a restaurant saying, hey, we make plates. Do you need plates? Like
It feels uncomfortable as well.
Right. It might happen that we go to a restaurant, we love the food, so we go back again. And also, I'm a big fan of like, talk to people who work in service because they're humans.
Definitely.
Just period. As a person who worked in hospitality and events for so many years, I'm like, I will sit at the bar and not at a table. I will talk to that bartender in a way that's not like, I need you to do your job, but more like, hey, how's it going? Like,
Definitely.
let's have a conversation. And then just because I'm human, you're human, not because I think there's an angle there, but when you do that, when you naturally meet a person, eventually through conversation, it comes up, oh, what do you do, or what brought you in, or whatever. And through that very organic conversation, then comes up the situation you're talking about of like, oh, I'm a ceramic artist. So, oh, I need bowls. Done.
Let's work together. Yeah, basically.
You didn't carry the boxes up the steps because you were like, ooh, maybe they'll want to come to my studio and buy something. You just did it to be a nice neighbor.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that human side of it is maybe what gets lost when we're all focused on the internet so much of like, oh, I need to grow my audience size or my follower count or my email list even. I have to grow all these things. And I said this a long time ago, I don't remember where, but like, wouldn't it be interesting how our brains might shift if instead of followers, it was humans, like on Instagram, or instead of subscribers on your email list, it was humans?
That's an interesting thing to think about.
Right? Because imagine if you think about having, I don't know, 300 humans that are interested in your work on a list that you have been given permission to contact. That sounds huge.
Yeah, it does.
But if I say 300 subscribers, it's like, oh God, that's not enough. I got to keep growing. I really got to get to 1,000 or whatever made up number, like it's just, I don't know. We forget like the basics, the low tech is actually the way to do it. Maybe.
I heard in a podcast, I don't remember which one, it was also a long time ago, but I think it stuck with me of like, it doesn't really matter the number that you have. Like, if I have 10K, if I have 100K, it doesn't mean that when I get to that number, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to sell out online. And then that's when I'm going to be able to do it. Because at the end of the day, like, maybe it's just 100. But from that 100, I'm keeping in contact with all of them. And from that 100, maybe 10 keep buying and keep coming back. And those 10 are like, you need to treat them well because they keep coming back. So they like you. And I think it's also hard sometimes and very frustrating when you have this mindset of like, I need to post, I need to make more, and I need to make sure more people subscribe because I need more audience, I need more sales. But then these people still keep coming back because they like you and they see your potential. And I think it's more important to think in that sense of like, hey, maybe it's 10, but it's like 10 super fans. That's awesome. That's really cool. It's so much better than having one person that buys one thing and never comes back. because then there's these people who you've also built a connection with. And I think that's even nicer than a number. Like, I'm making more money than I did last year, and I have almost the exact same number of followers. It had nothing to do with the amount of followers I have or the amount of times that I posted or said something online, because I was a long time not posting anything, because sometimes it happens that you don't want to. And yes, social media presence is part of the job. I'm not going to say like that it's not, but it is possible without. A lot of people did it before us, before social media was a thing, by talking to people on the street.
And I'm like, I don't know how many embassies are going on to Instagram being like, let me search for Colombian-made mugs in Austria. I'm pretty sure that's not like a super hot search term.
No, it is not. But I do think some people, like lately, I don't know why, I've had tourists come over and be like, can I visit your studio? It's like, sure. I mean, very small, but come ahead. And because they've found me through Instagram. So like, it's not all bad. It's not all let's look, but it is part of the job. It's part of how we make things go forward. It's the first thing that people search when they search you. But the follower count is not important regardless, I think.
Saying that actually makes me think about what I realized. I mean, it took me 10 years to figure out, probably. But for photography, and this sounds like it's similar to your experience now where you're at, this year at least, was realizing going back to the spreadsheets and the data, like looking back to realize where some of your best sales, your best clients actually came from and how that happened. And then I began to shift my approach for social media for the photography side with like, that was my way of just staying in touch with people who already knew me. So instead of it being the way to find new people, which might still happen, but like that wasn't my primary driver, my primary goal. It was just the way to have people remember me so that when they're in conversations with their friends and their friend says, oh, you know, my daughter just got engaged and we need a photographer, the first person they think of was me. Or, you know, when somebody in a team meeting in their office in their corporate job says we need holiday gifts, the first person somebody thinks of is Yvonne. You know, like not to be like, oh, I need to find new people, to deepen the relationship with the people you've already met.
Yeah, and then that's how you get your super fans as well. Like, I think that's also why it's so easy for me to post a story and so hard for me to post a reel, because I'm so authentic and so raw on my stories, and I post everything just because I'm excited about it. Like, oh my God, I'm working on this. Look, snap.
Yeah.
And it comes a moment where people that I don't know come to me and it's like, oh, how did it go with the bowls for the restaurant? And I'm like, oh, you were following that? I didn't know. Like, I'm just posting it because I'm like, I need to share. I sent this picture to everyone, not only on Instagram. I'm like, Mom, look what I did. Boyfriend, look what I did. Just because I'm excited of the things that I do. And I think that's why, for me, it's so easy to post stories. And I think how people are following my journey. But then if you don't see my stories, you have no idea what's going on, because I'm posting very little on posts. And that's why my follower count hasn't been bigger than last year. But that's okay. I'm fine with it.
To your point, if you're making more money this year than last year, as a business, it doesn't matter that your follower count hasn't grown.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we're talking about this in a very human way because we're humans and that's the best part. But like, you're still running a business. As a business, you have to be concerned with revenue and you're still growing. So what does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
I have no segue from that.
Yeah, no, me neither. Podcast done. No, I'm kidding.
That's the answer, everybody. Done. Mic drop.
Go full time. Experience the highs and lows.
Come join us on this emotional roller coaster. You might vomit, you might scream, and you might have a great time.
You might do them all at the same time.
I love that I'm using a roller coaster metaphor as a person who gets motion sickness and has just given up. I've just given up on roller coasters. I want to like them because I want the thrill and the whatever, but there's no amount of Dramamine in the world I have discovered that will actually make it physically enjoyable.
That doesn't sound fun.
So it's just like, nope, that's just not going to be the thing for me. And that's fine. Things people don't want to be thinking. Like, okay, we got to segue away from vomit. We can't end on vomit. That's not a good.
No, please, no.
So we've talked about these 2 years being self-employed. We were jokingly talking about, going back into restaurants and then leaving and not realizing. There was one other point in like the first year where you like took a couple days back with like a different studio or a different job and then stepped away. Like, what has been some of the like ebb and flows that you feel like people might not think about? We were saying before we hit record that, the perception of going full-time is a very like one and done thing. Like, that's it. You've made your decision. And I feel like you have approached this the whole time as this very fluid thing of like, you're just going to keep figuring it out and keep moving forward in whatever way.
But I think that's kind of part of it. As you said, you've been self-employed way, way longer than me, and you're still problem solving. It never stops. And I think that's just realizing that you're always going to have to find solutions. You always have to keep up. Well, maybe markets are not doing well now, and maybe online's doing better. So, like, be quick enough to decide, okay, and be open to try new ways. Be open for problem solving because it's not going to stop. And maybe markets will come back in 10 years and they're going to be great then. But I'm not going to be now waiting for 10 years in a market stall and hoping that the day will come back. You just have to be on your feet and use 110% of your brain all the time to think of ways to make this work. And I think that's kind of like the biggest takeaway, I think, from everything. It's never going to stop. And we think of this romanticized, finalized, self-employed. This is it. Now I'm gonna, that's it. That's it for the rest of my life. Fun. I'm going to make clay and get my hands dirty. But also, do you know how much you have to clean? God, I feel like I clean more than I do pots. Seriously.
It's a little ironic to stop this conversation right at the inevitable cleaning discussion, because doesn't the need for cleaning stop all of us so often in our own studios? So go figure. Now, I didn't entirely intend on this being yet another two-parter, and then I realized that this chat with Yvonne was exceeding an hour and a half. So here we are. Multiple two-part episodes in 1 month. Who am I? Anyway, we're going to continue this conversation next week, where Yvonne shares some of the incredible highs of these past 2 years. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on part 2 of this honest look at what 2 years of full-time making actually looks like. Until then, Yvonne's point about the problem solving never stopping really hits at something important here. That romanticized vision of self-employment as this final destination you are aiming for, where everything becomes creative and fun, well, I'm sorry to say, at least for most of us, and definitely for me, that's just not reality. That's not to say that there aren't moments or days of creativity and fun. There absolutely are. After all, why are we all doing this? But overwhelmingly, the reality is that you're constantly adapting, constantly figuring things out, and yes, perhaps constantly cleaning your studio. Or at least I hope you are. Here's what I find so inspiring about Yvonne's approach. She's not fighting against that reality. She's learned to work with the seasonal rhythms that work best for her, to stay open when plans fall apart, and to see each challenge as just the next puzzle to solve, rather than some kind of false evidence that she's doing something wrong. To be honest, her reflections on all of these experiences that she shares weekly inside of the community, often on a Monday co-working session that Yvonne herself hosts, well, those reflections are absolutely a part of what makes the community so special. Yvonne is one of our founding members, and I can say without a doubt it would not be the same without her. If you're feeling overwhelmed by how much there is to figure out, remember that the mental flexibility might just be as important as the financial planning. And mental flexibility is a lot easier to find when you have friends and colleagues who understand what it's like. So of course, if you're interested, you can have Yvonne right alongside you, along with nearly 100 other makers from around the world, cheering you on. Not to mention the direct educational resources on all the business stuff that no one ever taught us to help get you through all of those mental gymnastics that being a small business demands, all inside of the community. You've heard me say this a million times now, so you know where to go to learn more. Visit makersplaybook.com/community. Until next time, my friends, go get back to making your dreams a reality, because together, we've got this. Audio post-production of this podcast is made possible by help from Kirsty Kotzfan, with promotional material assistance from Queenie Maliki. The Maker's Playbook podcast is recorded on the original homelands of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee people, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present.
This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.